So like, just to break it down, so it's prayer, giving,
Yep.
going,
Yep.
and spreading.
Yes.
Just like
Yep.
you said.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes.
And just to on Glennis's point, this isn't comparison at all. But recently, I went to Bali for a bucks party. So my friend's getting married and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And what me and the guy that's getting married, we realized is, man, people even in Bali, they're not living like we live. Like, it's very different. I mean, what it did for me at least, and what I think for him as well, it gave us a different perspective. So we came back to Australia and we're just like, what do we do? Like, even the things that we spend money on now, it's maybe hasn't fully changed, but there's that consciousness of it. So yeah, and I think that's what we need. We need some awareness to actually, the world isn't just our little bubble that we live in, but it is far greater. And there are people that need a lot more than we think, or that we need. Yeah, and I want to make a vow, God willing, to both of you, that I will. I can't promise this, but I'll try that the next year or in 2 years, I will come to Uganda.
Wow. No, well, it will make a difference. Yeah. I tell you, just to see, and you know, I visited a hospital yesterday, and to see the level of equipment that's there, just all this equipment, and you think that's so different from what we deal with in Uganda. We've been blessed to receive some repurposed equipment through Rotary, but it's nowhere near enough. But it has made a big difference. Yeah, so you learn. Yeah, it will blow your mind. I can promise you, you will not be the same. You will not be the same.
Mission is a big part of who I am, and I know I haven't done many missions or whatever, but it's like, it's been on my heart since I was very young.
Yes.
And I'm just waiting for the day for God to be like, here it is, this is the end goal, this is where it is. But in due time, or in the meantime, let's I want to do what I can.
Yeah. And if you're able to tell the story widely, that's really a big need we have as well. I think Mama and I are quite limited in terms of coverage. We want to tell the story. We want to tell the story in all the territories and all over the world. Later on, in more languages than Australia and English.
Australian English.
But yeah, we really, I'm very thankful for this, because I know the power of technology. I know that someone in Canada could watch or listen to this. You can't overstate the importance of this, and I'm very, very grateful. And if you are in doubt of how else you will be supportive, publishing our stories is really a great need we have.
Yeah, because we can share this platform with so many people, because each month I send out a personal newsletter, so I can easily tag it in that. But you know, when we were talking, when David was talking to me, David's a visionary. He's an incredible visionary. Sometimes I have got to catch I'm trying to catch my breath, because he comes up with, and the ideas are breathtaking often. But the day he said to me, you know, we formed the company, and I said, yes, form a company, that's okay. Then he said to me, what about you come and live here in Uganda? So we went through the what ifs. We joke about this, but he had already had the thought, so he was already that far ahead of me. So now I'm going, what if this? What if? but then what if I don't?
Mm.
But you know, the children of Israel had to step out.
Mm.
If they had have just said, "Oh, what if?" and we don't.
Well, they did many times.
Well, they did. They did. But in the end,
Yeah.
until they actually took that step, you know, and there's so many stories in the Bible until you, and not just in the Bible, faith journeys, until you take that step. And I can tell you, many people thought I was nuts. You're selling your home, you've got, and somebody said to me, "Oh, but sell your home, but invest some, buy a property here." But we actually drove past the home I sold yesterday, and David said, "Oh, let's go. Yeah, we'll go and look at the hospital." I said, "Yeah, we'll go and look at the hospital," because that house built the hospital. But you know, that was a house I was living in. As I said, I wasn't married or by myself with my beautiful dog, and we were in that house. But now we've got a hospital that's changing people's lives. Now, we're not overtly preaching the gospel at the hospital. We believe that, what do you say? You can preach the gospel and use words. And it's a famous quote.
Preach the gospel at all times. Use words if necessary.
Yes, And so that's what we do. So we have all these beautiful babies born at the hospital. And again, not being a mum, I've never held a brand new baby until at the hospital. And I've held one that's 20 minutes old. And it's humbling, and it's awe-inspiring to think, you know, like I've never gone down that path at all much. But then to hold this tiny baby and see how magnificently they're made. And I pray over each one when I'm there. I go, regardless of whether they're Muslim or animist or non-believers or Christian, I always say, can I pray for your baby? And I've never had anyone say no. And we give each one a wrap. We call them wraps here, but they're called the receivers there. It's a little like blankie that you put around a newborn baby. And on it, it's got Glenn's Dignity Hospital. Then it's got Psalm 139, verse 14. You are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen.
And they all, doesn't matter who has received that, they all go, thank you, thank you. And so our mission, our preaching is by actions rather than because also if you stand up and preach and you know thump the Bible, you've got to be very careful to make sure your actions line up with what you say. And so you know, the guy who drives me all the time at the hospital is a Muslim guy, but he's a lovely guy, and he oh mama. he's such a lovely guy. So yeah, so it's faith in action there.
I want to just I don't know if it was very clear made for the viewers, but how can we keep up to date? How can we maybe subscribe to the newsletter, or maybe even your personal one, or
sure,
the main one?
Sure. So I send out a personal one, which is to close friends, but it's also it's also to keep reminding me of the stories. So I send that out. But since I've been in Australia, I've been taking details of anybody who wants to sign up for a newsletter to sign up, to give me their name and email address, and I'll commit to sending that out. The other one that David was talking about, I was doing that once a quarter, and that covers all our work. So if people want to sign up, they can send an email to me. My email. Do you want me to give you my email, or you put it up on the?
I can put it in the description.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So they can sign up there, and I'll send them add them to the email list. I actually love writing those emails because I picture the people I'm writing them to, and they're quite chatty. I don't think they're the ones that. The headed ones, the ones that go out every quarter, are a lot more formal. But the ones I send out every month, they're quite chatty, and I put pictures in there. And so many people since we've been back in Australia said, "Oh, I love getting your newsletters." So I also love to hear from them.
Yeah.
Something I also love is I obviously I don't know you guys too well, but I love the fact that you said David's a visionary, because this has been on my mind a lot recently, and I heard like there are three types of leaders: visionary, like the business side of things, or the technical people, and it's always good to have like different people do different things. And like David, I think I would say I'm a visionary more than anything. But it's always good. That's probably why you guys make a fantastic team. I don't know what side you do, maybe the business or the technical side, but I feel like that's why like God put you guys together for a reason, and you guys have the same heart, and you guys are doing amazing things. And I could guess that you would have never thought that you would have bought a hospital and now delivering, like, technically not delivering children, but also delivering children. Like
it's bizarre. Who would have thought at 64, that I would become a mum and a mother in love and a grandmother at 64. That was mind blowing in itself. And sometimes I get quite emotional when I think about all of that, because that just, by the time you get to your 60s, you think that's, well, that boat sailed. So that was amazing. I remember, a few years ago now, I said, by the time I'm 65, I'll be retired. I won't be, but even when I was 60, I thought, I'm not ready to stop. I've got too much usefulness. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Yeah, thanks for that English lesson. Too much usefulness. I was not good at sitting, because if I sit, then I can just sit and do nothing, and to me that's wasteful. So I would rather rust out than wear out. So no, wear out. I'd rather wear out. Get it right. I'd rather wear out than rust out.
I hadn't picked that. So.
Oh yeah,
because I don't speak Australian.
So I think while I've got breath and energy, I want to be productive and using it. And what better way than to use it for the kingdom in whatever way God opens the doors.
Can I? Sorry, I'm gonna. There's been something on my heart recently, so like a passion. I guess this is where my visionary comes in, the vision side. But maybe you guys know Matthew 25. And I've shared it on the podcast many times, so I apologize. But Matthew 25, I'm just going to get it up. It talks about how we can. Sorry, let me find it. Okay, that's 26. My bad. Yeah. Okay. I'll read it, then I'll explain why I'm reading it. Where is it? I think it's 20. So sorry. Here we go. It is Matthew 25 verse let's say 34. Matthew 25, 34. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." The reason why I share this is because this is exactly what you guys are doing. And this has been on my heart, and I would love to do something. I have something in mind called the Matthew 25 Project, where we go through each one of these things as a template, and we can help in any sort of way. I still need to bring up to my church leaders and stuff, but we'll get there one day. but I want to read this to encourage you guys. And if you ever do feel burnt out, or maybe, I hope this doesn't come, but maybe it's like you feel like it's not working, or it's not, you're not seeing fruit, whatever it is. Just understand that whoever you do help, whatever children you deliver, or whatever it is, you're actually doing this to the Father.
Right.
And that's what Jesus says to us.
Mm.
And hopefully one day, like I said, I'll make a vow, not a promise because I can't keep it, but hopefully one day I can come. But also hopefully one day that I can bring some people with me.
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So David, tell Jonah about Adembe, and just this is an example of living out faith and the impact it has on somebody, that you don't sit there and add it up, but then the outpouring, the fruit of that.
Yeah, so it's been of course 2 decades of intentional caring for children, and out of the hundreds who have gone through our hands, there are those highlights, standout cases. And so there are kids who have done exceptionally well, pursued education in excellent ways, and gone to great schools and done great courses, graduated, formed families of their own, companies of their own, etc., etc. So Mama has reminded me of David. Also, he's also called David. I met him in law school. He was a brilliant student who had been rejected by his own father. His father took a wife, and that wife did not bear children, and he took this young sister of his wife to bear children.
Wow.
For the other one. Then David was born, but then the wife, the sister of whom had born David, rejected her young sister, because she by bearing children, she had just galvanized the shame of her elder sister for not bearing children. So David was rejected, raised by his single mother in misery, ended up in law school, but admitted but without money to pay for tuition or for accommodation. So a friend of mine in class approached me and told me about David's story, and David's story looked similar to the many hundreds of stories of children I've taken in. So I took him in, lived with him for 4 years in my university cubicle. I didn't preach by word of mouth. Jesus to him, he was Catholic by birth again. But I paid for his education and accommodation, and I took care of him. I took him in as my own son. So 3 years into law school, I was going to baptize converts from the church. I ran evangelism rallies in communities. So I'd done a rally and people had given their lives to Christ. So I took them to the lake to baptize them. And in the line of those seeking baptism, I saw him. I said, "Hey, you've come to be baptized?" "Yes." "When did you accept Christ?" He said, "I just did." And I baptized him, and he said that though I hadn't preached to him, he had seen Jesus,
wow,
physically, through my life. So he gave his life to Christ. So we brought him into the family. He's one of I have a biological son who is 20 now, but David became my son as well. So I have several sons, but these are in the house. And so recently, after we graduated through law school, went to the bar course, and he passed the bar. Recently got admitted to the bar. He's an advocate now. Last year, he took a wife for himself in a very beautiful traditional marriage and church marriage. And a few weeks ago, 3 months now, they had a wonderful son.
Wow.
And in Africa, we name children after our ancestors. So because of Mama Glenys, David named his son after their grandfather,
Wow.
who is great-grandfather, who is Mama's father. Yeah, and named the son Clem. Clem is Mama Glenys's dad. So that's one of the cases. Another case was the very first child I started with, Moses. He went on to become a telecommunications and software engineer, formed a company, found a wife for himself. They have a beautiful daughter. He travels globally to do technology work. He designs apps. I don't know what he does. I use apps on my phone, but he designs the apps. So very, very smart. We've had very many children who have gone through high school, gone through university and other tertiary institutions, graduated and are pursuing careers. And that's unique because ordinarily, I mean, it's very expensive to sponsor a child from kindergarten through university. It costs me about, I should say, about $150 to $200 a year to pay tuition in a government school for a child in primary school. When they go to high school, they will cost me about $1,000 Australian per year. When they go to university, they will cost me of about $2,000 a semester, and there are 2 semesters. So most local indigenous organizations will stop at high school. And the kids have become adults or young adults, and they'll say, go fend for yourself. But our vision of bringing dignity to Africa has got the aspect that the children, our beneficiaries, the children who go through our hands, should also become part of Africa's think tank, part of the best, the elite of the African forces that will transform Africa. And we talk about the 7 mountains of influence: arts and entertainment, business, education, family, government, media, religion. And we want our children to grow up knowing that Africa is their mission field. I mean, they can go elsewhere, wherever they want. But we don't just want to produce children or adults who can read and write. We want people who can reason, who can innovate, who can come up with ideas, who can influence thinking. John C. Maxwell says leadership is all about influence. We want to raise influencers. So we have engineers, we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have all sorts of professions of children who would have otherwise perpetuated street life, living on the streets. People who wouldn't have had the idea of proper and functional marriages. Because you have on the streets in Africa's cities, you will find there are streets which have generations of homeless people. And it's that, okay, they grew up as street children, boys and girls. They made children on the streets. They raised those children on the streets. Those children so they are generations on the streets. And so if we are able to get children, take them in, and we don't put them in traditional orphanages. We don't put children in dormitories. We have created communities within a communities. No walls, no signposts of saying orphan home this, orphan home that. We try to replicate the normal families. First, it mitigates, it kills, it ameliorates, it takes care of the stigma. because there's a stigma attached to growing up in an orphanage. But it also prepares these children to live life in the way that our communities are formed. And so I'm 46 and I'm a grandfather of many because the children I've raised have made formed families of their own.
Wow, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So what's that like? Is there an organization with that, or is that just something you do, or?
No, we Father's Divine Love Ministries.
So that's what that one is.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
is what it is. It's
Okay.
a non-government, church-based, non-denominational organization, and orphan care, caring for orphans and vulnerable children, is one of the major thrusts. It's not the only thing we do. We do church planting, we do pastoral leadership and training, but orphan care is one of the things. See, there are 150 million orphans around the world. 150 million. 52 million of those are in Africa.
Wow.
In Africa. Uganda has 2.4 million orphans.
Gosh, yeah.
And among orphan care agencies, there is those that are gospel-based, there is a thought, a mindset that this demographic of 150 million children is a target, is God's target for the ox of righteousness, for the force that will transform the world. He talks about bring up a child in the way he should go, when he grows, he will not depart from it. 150 million children. 150 million children need a home, need guidance, need discipleship. Australia is 28 million. Yeah, so we're talking about, so Africa's orphans alone are 2 times the population of the continent of Australia. Yeah. So as churches, we are very deliberate. James 1:27, religion that is true and acceptable before God and the Father is this, that we visit orphans and widows in their affliction and keep ourselves unstained in this world. And we have called churches to orphan care, saying that with regard to orphan care, God does not have a plan A and plan B, where if this plan fails, then this plan will work. We say that God has only one plan, and that plan is the church. That God is counting on the church.
Wow, amazing.
And not any other institution. So it's almost criminal to be a church in a community and not have orphan care as one of the things that your heart beats for, because it's a scripture which defines religion. Religion defined is right there in James 1:27.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Bible is clear on 2 things. It says, help the widows, help orphans.
Yes.
I don't think we do either of those, to be honest. So, yeah, honestly, I love the heart that you have, and I love the passion that you have. I know you said that you ramble, but I could listen to it all day, honestly. So thank you. Another question that I have is, for those that are struggling, maybe there's opportunities that are out there for them. Maybe God is pushing them in the direction, but they're sort of pushing against God. And like you said before, you were in this scenario when he said to come to Uganda. He's like, what if? What would you say to those people that are questioning or having struggles or are scared of not actually going to do their calling or go to mission?
Okay, so it's an interesting thing. I did not hear an audible voice say, "Glenys, you must sell your house and you must go to Uganda on this day." So it was just, and I don't hear voices like that. I don't hear God say, "Do this and do that." And I sometimes get a bit wary of people who say they have that experience because it's not mine. But we talked about it, and obviously, yes, there were the questions of what if, and I think you've got to be sensible. There were things, what if, but then a very, very dear friend of mine who's since now with Jesus said to me, if you have peace, that's what you need. And I had that. I had that. That was fine. The peace was fine. So you'll have and committed Christians who will say, "Are you sure? Oh no, you're crazy. Oh well, keep some money aside and do this. Don't." But as I said earlier, the children of Israel had to step out. It wasn't just them. Like different people. You look at Ruth and the story of Ruth and how she had to step out and not know. But until you step out, and God doesn't call you to something and then just take his hands away. You know, he's always there. So I would say, seek wise counsel. Don't just listen to everybody. And it's often the quiet voices are the ones that have the depth, rather than those around you who'll be the loud noises. It's the quiet voice, but it's the peace. When you have that peace, then I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not easy. And I'd be lying if I said every day, I'm going, wow, I'm in Uganda, isn't this fantastic? Some days I think, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing here. Some days I can feel alone. And when I can't just go and have a coffee with a girlfriend, or, the sales are on, let's go to the sale. No, I can't do that. But then there's benefits that far outweigh that. Like, I cannot tell you the rich conversations I have with my daughter in love. Like, we have some of the most amazing conversations. Never had that here in Australia. But sometimes we sit and we talk and talk and talk and talk. And it's such a blessing. So the benefits far outweigh anything. Just go for it.
Just go for it.
I think if I can supplement that, even with the idea of listening to counsel, wise counsel, listen to the counsel, but reserve the right to decide for yourself, and to be willing to be satisfied with the decision you made. When the girls came to Paul and prophesied and said, this is what will happen to you. You will be bound up in ropes, etc. if you go. Paul listened. And people were concerned and scared for his life and would have counseled him out of it. And he said, I've heard you, and I've had the consequences, and I'm still going. I want you to know that I am ready for what awaits me, not only to be bound up and thrown in jail, but even to die. So at the end of the day, amidst the counsel, there has to be a determination for as long as we know that, because here is how I follow God's voice and God's leading. One, I'll wait, I will pray and hope to hear God speak to me, to say go. If I don't hear him say go, I will go with an open mind of stopping if he stops me. So he will either command me to go, or he will stop me. If he doesn't do any of those two, I will go anyway, because if he was to stop me, he would, and if he was to say go, he would. We normally say that whatever is not prohibited is allowed. So if God has not prohibited me from going, he has impliedly allowed. Someone said that, we are called to be living sacrifices. And he said that the problem with living sacrifices is that they crawl off the altar. Because they are...
if it gets hot.
Yeah. You put a living sacrifice on the altar, by the time you bring the sword, it has crawled off of the altar. So a lot of times we are not dead enough. We are not, we don't exercise death to self. We become we want to follow God, but we are also so conscious of our world and the world around us that it interferes with our ability to obey. So listen to counsel, but make the decision yourself. Be ready for the consequences. Do not crawl off the altar. Do not crawl off the altar. If God doesn't want you to sell your house to go to Africa, He's your father. He's a loving father. If my son was going to sell something and I felt that he shouldn't do that, I am his father. I will speak to him. I'll say, my son. So if an evil man like me can have the senses to intercept my sons, how much more, God, our loving God. I read a book by Roland and Darlene Cunningham, the founders of YWAM, and that book is called Daring to Live on the Edge. Daring to Live on the Edge. So when you think about a woman who has lived the high life, protocol, traveled with the queen, hosted the elite of society, etc., and has saved her retirement, has her home, and then is selling it to go to a place where water runs out and you don't know when it will come back. Electricity goes and you don't know when it will come back. You run a hospital and it takes more than it brings in. I mean, you're living on the edge. You're living on the edge. One thing I've always assured her is that she will never starve. Like, she will never drop dead because of lacking what to eat. But that doesn't mean that she will not be hungry. That doesn't mean that she will not be broke. She'll be hungry. She'll be broke. She will be scared. She will cry, but she will live until God is happy to take her home. Yeah, wow. So we should be willing, and we should be daring to live on the edge. Quite honestly, fathering children, for me, I have had to forfeit a lot of. I mean, I was robbed of my. When you become a father at 17, I was robbed of between 17 and maybe 25, where I would have lived, without a wife, without children. I became a father. I mean, there are so many times I felt like running crazy. I mean, you have a host of children would wake you up at 2 a.m. for you to be a judge for a conflict they have had in the bed. So there is I love my life. God has given me a great life, great impact, legacy. I'm very proud of the things God has done through me, but those haven't come without a price. There are things that, for me to be able to raise money to feed and educate these children, I would have to travel and be in Australia for 2 months, be in America for 3 months, 5 months out of the year. You've left your wife and children. My second daughter was born while I was in Victoria here in Australia, and I went back home when she was 1 month and my son was 2 years. When I exited the airport and they gave me my son, he cried, and he had forgotten. He had forgotten who I was. My 1-month-old baby cried, and I broke down. I broke down and cried, and I can think about the heart of God. How many times we reject Him and how that breaks Him. A preacher said that that teenagers are how God gets back to man. That God made man in His own image, and man rejected God. And so God has given us children, and when they become teenagers, they do to us exactly what we do to God, so that we can understand His pain. But so running this work comes with Mama here will testify. Sarah and I receive a punishing volume of calls on a daily basis.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yes. Hundreds of calls. And about 99.9% of all those calls are people calling with issues, needing us to resolve their issues. And we can't. So you really, you live a life of carrying an extra burden. But we have not received an invitation to carry our chocolate every day and follow Christ. It's carrying our cross. So carrying the cross tastes different from carrying chocolate. I would rather carry a chocolate bar.
Somehow it tastes sweeter. No, it's the like amazing thoughts, and this might be a silly thought, but imagine Jesus said like, "Oh, like I don't want to die on the cross today," and then like what purpose? Like our whole belief has been built off of sacrifice, so we should be able or willing to sacrifice. And I used to say this thing like whenever people ask me for advice whether they should do this thing in their life, I always just say it's similar to what David said: just go, just try, and if God doesn't want you to go, he won't take you. And I always say this, sometimes it's hard for me to even take that step and do that. But every time someone asks me like, oh, should I go on this trip or should I don't know, do this? And I'm like, just try, just go. And usually God will close the door or leave the door wide open for you to run in and do it.
I remember years ago saying to a former boss of mine, I wish God had just write it on the wall. And then I realized if God writes it on the wall, you're in big trouble.
So he has a whole book for us to follow.
Yeah.
So, I think an hour and 50 minutes, probably an hour and 45 minutes so far. I would love to just, maybe we can end here, but this could be a summary of everything we've spoken about. Firstly, we can go through again what you guys do exactly in Uganda, because we did mention it and we did talk about it, but I'd love to just go over it again and just maybe summarize it in so people can fully understand.
So what we are doing can be summed up in one sentence, and that is bringing dignity to Africa through the gospel preached and lived out. Preach the gospel at all times, use words if necessary. So we are bringing dignity to Africa through living out the gospel, and that is manifest through activities such as orphan care, where we provide shelter, food, education, and health care to orphaned and vulnerable children. We run a pre-primary school where we provide education, where we based on the Montessori curriculum, so that children are not just piled up in classes with the teacher with a stick hitting whichever child coughs during the lecture. So we're providing education through school. We're providing healthcare through the hospital. That hospital is really an entity of God's benevolence when you think about the high mortality rates in sub-Saharan Africa and the lives being saved there, the access to doctors, the access to medicine. They're going to the islands to share Christ through actions. One of the operations Mama does with her staff is to go to school and distribute
sanitary products.
Sanitary products to girls. I couldn't, because I'm not a girl, I couldn't find the appropriate word. But you have children who miss school a week in every month because they can't go to school because they are embarrassed. They do not have the gear to keep them dignified. Mama is doing that. She gets on the boat with her staff and they go to schools, they go to hospitals to extend our outreach with health. We are establishing the School of Health Sciences, where we are going to train clinicians, pharmacists, laboratory technicians, nurses, and midwives. In order to mitigate, again, we said the ratio of nurse to patient is 1 nurse to 11,000 patients, 1 doctor to 25,000 patients. If we can train more human resource in that regard, we are mitigating that need. And then whatever else. And of course, as I talked about the 7 domains of influence, we are doing other things. I am a legislator. I am a member of parliament. So again, through our ministry, that is ministry to the marketplace, we are changing Uganda through policy advocacy. We advocate for the right policies. We do policy analysis. We do we debate in the best interest of our citizens, because we don't want to passively sit and let everyone else decide how Uganda is governed. So I am in government. I do social justice advocacy. I'm a legal professional, and so we do that also as an act of philanthropy. I do pro bono services to indigent people needing legal representation. So in addition to what Mama will supplement, that is part of the nutshell, but Mama will say more.
Yes. So, well, as I think you've covered it pretty well. What we do, but this work of the foundation, going to these schools, like I know David didn't talk about it much, but going to these girls who have miss a week, a month, and the methods they use to deal with their periods is just horrendous. And I've said to a couple of people since we've been here, you cannot imagine an Australian girl jumping up and down because she's been given a packet of sanitary products. But we had classrooms of girls just cheer and so excited. So we've been able to do that. We're also developing a system of helping with the water purification on the islands, because they don't have running water. So in the West, you think, oh, an island, that sounds lovely, and wealthy people live on an island. Well, these people are the poorest of the poor. No running water. They've only got a primary school. Some people never leave the island. They stay on there their whole life, like the ones David mentioned, who live on the streets and have generations of living on the streets. Well, so they are on the island, and there's incest, there's all sorts of things goes on there. There's a lot of criminals live on the islands too. They go over there and hide because there's no police on the islands. And so we go over there and have built up a relationship with them. So now if the team goes over and I'm not there, they say, where's the Mzungu, which is white person? Where's Mama Mzungu? She's not here. And we laugh. I've actually got a gold crown on my tooth that I had put in years and years and years ago. And it now provides a lot of entertainment for these little kids. They'll be talking that, oh, what's that? And I'll have all these fingers pointing in my mouth. And they hold on to me. Like I walk through and I've got a child on every finger and my elbows, and then they'll even grab my pants. And I said, you got to make sure your pants fit all right, because you don't want them to come down while you're walking through. But it's just letting them know that they're all of value. They're all of value. Amazing. So that, like David says, dignity to Africa is such a huge thing, and that none of them was a mistake. As he said, when he was growing up and then looked in the mirror and realised God doesn't make junk, and so that's another. It's just living out daily. I'm not brave. I'm just doing what was in front of me. I don't stop and think what I've given up, because what I've gained, you can't compare one with another. Yeah.
It sounds like the mission is to just allow people to understand their worth and their position in God's kingdom. And because we all have a position in God's kingdom, right?
Definitely.
So, it sounds like that's it. And honestly, like I haven't been more encouraged in like in a podcast than this one. So I appreciate you guys a lot. I have a question about let's say I come to Uganda, or I don't know, I bring people to Uganda. What does like a short-term mission trip provide? So what would it actually help with, if it does help? And yeah, what would it even help us with as well?
Well, David, you're better to speak on this.
Yeah, I think that the activities of the team are tailored around the gifts on the team. So if it's a team of professionals, then we could point them in the line of their profession. So if they are medical professionals, or they are theological teachers of theology, or they we used to host tradies, a team of tradies. They built a whole village within a village, which is one of our main bases of the children. And then there are those who are available. Like I said, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Yeah.
There are those who are available. I don't have any specific skills, but I am available and I am open to what is put before me. And so we will tailor the activities of the team around the nature of the team itself. We can, like when you go to the islands or to the schools to share Christ, but also distribute the items like she has done, you don't need to be anything apart from human and available. So any team really can come. Anyone can come. There is always a catch-22, because first and foremost, when a team is coming, it is costly. I mean, it costs you in terms of money, it costs you in terms of time. So if a team of 10 Australians are going to buy tickets of, let's say, $2,000 each, that is $20,000. And if they are going to come and go to the schools to distribute the items that we have, and do that for 10 days and come back home and that's it, to me, it's an abuse of resources. It's an abuse of resources. There should be a juxtaposition, that there should be a balance between the resources invested and the productivity of the team. But for me, the most productive investment in such a team would be that their primary objective is to experience the work firsthand, come back here, and continue to promote the story.
Yeah.
To promote the story. I'll give it to them, because a person who has been in Africa, lived this life and done that practically, when they stand before a congregation or a group of people, or in their small group, to talk about missions and what is there to be done, a person who has seen it and done it is more dynamic. More dynamic. So I think that the justification of such an investment is that you come back and be a mouthpiece of the work that is going on there. Otherwise the money could do more if you stayed here and sent it. So if you do not intend to be part of the ongoing story, maybe coming, it might change you and make you a better Christian. There is no monetary equivalence to that. The king himself knows how impactful that is. So we shouldn't judge anyone. But if you gave me options, I would pick travelers who are coming and then becoming partners of the work.
Yeah.
Because Mama has a great story, I have a great story, but we can only be in one place at a time. The reason I'm giving this podcast so much time and enjoying it so much is not because I'm talking to you. It's because we are seated here but I will be speaking to someone in Perth, where I can't go, where I can't be. I'll be speaking to someone in the Northern Territory, someone in Adelaide, someone in Canberra. And this is actually what we need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, amen. So that's the reason why I asked is because it's like I've been to some mission trips. They've been very different to what you guys are saying. Some of them have been similar, but sometimes after I leave from the short-term mission trip that I'm on, I'm like, what can I do now? Like it's like I've just built relationships, I've built friendships and whatnot, and then I left and I'm never going to see them again. So actually my last mission trip that I went on was actually like, it sort of hurt me a little bit because the fruit was good and what we did was fantastic. But when I got back, I was like, what am I, like, what now? Like,
Yes,
I haven't spoken to any of them since I've come back. It's been very difficult. And I could imagine that it's difficult for them. They have a group of people going to their location, building relationships, and then just leaving. It's sort of just like, it's like a stab in the heart, sort of. That's why I wanted to ask that, but that's a very good, I guess, explanation of what we could do, what we need, what you guys need as well. So, did you have anything, Glenn?
Well, I'm just thinking the technology that you've got here and the content, the network you've got, you can't put a price on that. So that's a really great way of promoting what we do and stories and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you see, for me, if you sent me an invitation to come from Uganda to come and preach a sermon in an Australian church, I will not come. I will not come because Australia has great preachers, who understand, who will know the illustrations to make, who will not need to apologize for a joke if it doesn't turn out to be a joke. I will not come. So when Mama says we will go to this church and you will speak, my first question is what kind of speaking? Because I am only here to be a mouth for hundreds of little mouth which can't be here for the children. I am not here to open the passage and teach Australians about how to be a Christian, etc., etc. So even for an Australian preacher, like Mama said, if they are coming to preach a sermon in church and then come back and we never hear from them again, it's a total waste of time because we have better preachers in Africa. We have better preachers in Africa. They know the language, they know the culture, they know how God deals with us. So there has to be a way of marrying the two so that we have a relationship, an impactful relationship, and that has a bit of longevity. One of my hardest experiences running this work is that over the years, I have had people who have come and been very excited and been part of the children's lives for some time. And as the children grow old and their needs become more, these people jump ship. And so a child has to sit out of school for 2 years and they're like, Uncle, what happened to so-and-so? Because that so-and-so came and promised all this and this and that and this and that. So people who are looking for a thrill, for like a spike, sometimes end up doing more
damage.
Yeah.
That's what I asked.
When helping hurts, yeah.
That's something that I just want to be cautious of. Especially if I invite others to come with me or whatever. I don't have a plan right now, but this is the visionary mind again.
Yes.
That's something I just want to be cautious of. I don't want to cause more damage.
You would the burden for you would be ensuring that when you come back you remain a point of contact to them and to always remind them and really to share what the story is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, although there are some who go and when they come back they don't have much to do with the mission field where they went, but what they experienced changes them
for sure,
forever. They become maybe better husbands or better wives or better Christians in the church. So really, there's no one size fits all. Yeah. Some of these things we have to trust God to, because he owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. So I am even misdirected in getting angry about someone who spends $5,000 to come see the children for 2 days, because who am I? It's not my money. It was their money, and so it was God's money, really. Yeah.
Amen. I guess the maybe the last question, unless I think of other questions, the last question is just to clarify of how we can help, and maybe be specific with every part that we can help with. Okay,
so we really need this ambulance. So, and you can go to the website, www.glensgroup.com, GLENZGROUP.com, and it shows you how to donate there. And there you can get a tax deduction for donating to the ambulance. So that is something that's really, really important. Like as David mentioned earlier, the ambulances really are just boxes on wheels. And so people can die so quickly because of lack of treatment when they don't need to. So that's something we really need help with. Prayer is there's a group of women in a retirement village here at Mole Village who pray for us regularly, and they're some of them are nearly 100, and they pray regularly for us. We can't put a value on that. And go and also talk about it, the work that we do.
Can I maybe you don't want to answer this, but can I ask how much money is the ambulance going to be?
The ambulance will cost 185,000 Australian dollars.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. All right. And I had another question. Is there a place that we could be updated on prayer? And
yes, if you sign up for a newsletter, we will be updating on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, and the way they sign up for the newsletter is,
if they send to, I'll give you my email address that you can put in the descriptor, and they can just put their name and email address, and I'll add them to the list.
Okay, perfect. I think we can end there. I might actually split this episode into two. It'll get more attention probably. So.
Yes, yeah, no, that's fantastic.
I look forward to watching it myself.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough for coming here and being on it. Honestly, I hope, like, for your sake and for the people of Uganda, I hope this gets all the views. But yeah, I hope that it could have even the slightest impact on something that you guys are doing. But honestly, praise God for you guys. I can see the work that he's doing, and I can see that he's using two of you, completely different lives and completely different stories coming together and impacting the world the best way that you guys know how. So thank you for all the work that you're doing for God's kingdom. Also, thank you for coming here and I guess sharing how you are doing that as well. So,
thank you very much for having us too.
Yes,
we're very privileged to have a platform where we can be heard from near and afar. Very grateful.
No, it's great, and I can get the link and then send it to all all our contacts. So that's wonderful. So Bobby from your church, yes, he came and saw the hospital.
I did, yes.
Yeah. And it was through him. Well, I've known Fiona for years, but he spoke. Fiona spoke to me about him, and then he came to the hospital, and he's been very excited.
Fiona, we haven't even mentioned Fiona, but Fiona was the person that actually got me to contact you as well.
Yes, yeah. Because I visited Fiona in Vietnam. I've known her. Yes. Yeah.
Crazy story. I want to get Fiona on one time as well.
Oh yes, she'd be great. She'd be great.
Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can see each other and see you guys down the line.
So it, like, in future, like, if we're over there, can we send videos to you to put on your podcast, or doesn't work?
We can talk about that off camera, but
Okay, we're still on camera.
Yeah, we still are. Yeah, that's okay.
I know, but I thought it had stopped.
It's okay. I'll just outro and then we can. Well, thank you all for watching, and thank my lovely guests for coming on. And I will see you guys next time. And peace.